Well, it's just another day in the sports world, isn't it? And we're going to talk about it. And this is going to be a little different. The last show was probably one of the least viewed programs I've done in recent years. And I think it was because it was too somber and people don't really want the absolute truth.
No, they don't, and it
Th-
was too truthful too. Yeah, absolutely.
They want what makes their little dicks hard. And, I can't do that for you. And neither can I. So
Yeah.
go fuck
Fuck
yourself.
yourselves.
Yeah. All right. Today's program really is being undermined by these last minute stories coming in. I'll start with this one. Uh, this is horrible. This is horrible. Uh, Former Raiders center Barrett Robbins, who was an All Pro in 2002, dead at the age of 52. No cause of death given. All right. Now, the article on ESPN said no cause of death, no explanations, no nothing. All right. And they said he died peacefully in his sleep at 52. And his wife reported the death.
Was he surrounded by family?
They always are.
Yeah. That's why I don't want family anywhere near me because I know that I'm going to die then.
Exactly. It's like, go home.
Go home. Go away.
You go now. Every time I see a Panda Express commercial on television, they're the worst. They're the worst commercials. It's like, you go home now. I can't deal with it.
Now, see, I've already ruined a very somber story about death by ruining it. So
but no, this is what we get. He had a 9-year career, spent it all with the Raiders. He got into the Super Bowl. They didn't win the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay did, but he did get into the Super Bowl. All right. He was selected in the second round out of Texas Christian University, TCU. He played more than 100 games, became the team's top offensive lineman.
Wow.
His best season was in 2002. And he got into, like I said, got into the Super Bowl, but he's remembered for the events that led up to that Super Bowl game. He was absent from team activities the day before the Super Bowl and later returned in a confused state. That'd be Florida. He did not.
Or Ohio.
Yeah. He did not play in the game, and the Raiders lost to the Buccaneers.
Wow.
Now, and they didn't even include that in the ESPN story. I'm reading this from another source. All right. This is after the incident. Robbins was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Reports later said he hadn't taken his medication before the game, which led to a serious episode. Following his football career, he faced personal struggles, including legal issues and substance abuse. People started calling him Bernie Kosar.
No.
Despite these challenges, former teammates remembered him as a talented player and a key corpse of the Raiders' success.
Yeah, they're not going to say he was a total asshole or anything like that after he just died.
But I mean, don't tell me that the cause of death is that they're not really sure of what did this to him. I mean,
they're probably a bit like Ricky Hatton, really.
But they won't admit it. They won't say, well, CTE had something to do with the substance abuse. They won't say that. Next comes rolling down the wire the man with a death wish, Tiger Woods. And, you know, the human condition is such that it's hard to explain how a guy who seemingly on the outside had everything, he had a beautiful wife and a beautiful home, letting the days go by.
Let the water hold me down.
He was the greatest golfer in the world for
Dwayne Stephenson. He was the greatest golfer.
I mean, he was great.
He was great.
Yeah. I mean, but he's self-destructive, man. he just got done playing in a little organized thing, and and it was like a team thing, and he was the captain of the team, and he inserted himself into the final round to play, and he lost it for the team. And then a couple days later, he's got a one-car rollover crash.
Wow.
Something ain't right. Something ain't right here.
He's having problem with his driver.
And get this, he was supposed to announce by April the 9th, are you going to play at Augusta or not? It's like, fuck. How many car crashes this guy? How many?
Well, I don't know. I heard somewhere that it was 2 people or 2 cars.
Oh, was it?
Or 2 people involved. Like one person went to the hospital, the other one refused. That's what I heard here. But that doesn't mean it's right. That could be completely wrong.
His publicity machine gets right on this, and it's like, oh God, he's done it again. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I could be talking total nonsense,
Well, but the bottom line is the guy went driving on Ambien. he crashed into a tree. His marriage fell apart. He had an unresolved relationship with his father, and his father died. That his mother died, and he couldn't recover emotionally from his mother's passing. And then, I mean, it goes on and on. He destroyed his own legs.
Well, he's got mental health issues along with physical health.
And the more surgeries he gets, the more he insists, oh my God, I'm going to come back. And it's like, you're not going to come back. You're going to kill yourself. Why can't he accept the fact he was the greatest of all time? Why can't he accept that and just say, I'm done with golf. I'm going to find another purpose and meaning in my life?
Well, I can't answer that because I don't know the man, but BBC says golf star Woods involved in car crash in Florida. Martin County Sheriff's Office investigating collision on Jupiter Island, which took place, blah, 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 blah. The BBC's U.S. media partner, CBS, says a source at Martin County Fire Rescue confirmed it was a 2-car crash with one vehicle rolling over. One person is stable while another refused to go to hospital. Wood's condition is not yet unknown. So that's what BBC is quoting CBS. So, if you think they're all fake media, then your mileage may vary, but that's what I'm reading here.
You know what all I have to say is, and I'm going to move on. That's, Tiger Woods. Oh, he's going to kill himself just as certainly as I'm here. Peter Alice commenting on Tiger Woods.
Yeah, somebody is questioning the veracity of BBC. Now, that's pretty hilarious, but, why don't you question every single news source that's out there?
Now, I want to move on to get on to what this show is really about, and I'm adding this up. And this is,
Evan Mobley.
Yeah. This is a guy who he's either on yahoo.com or he is a Yahoo. I'm not sure which one it is. He's the most overrated and underwhelming player in the NBA. Now, and this is what this moron looks like.
People beyond that.
I mean, I want to point something out to these idiot attention seekers. I mean, look at this guy. What a fucking dork. Look at him. Fucking jack-o'-lantern looking ass.
Yeah, he looks like somebody that was rejected from his ICE interview,
Oh, my God.
I mean, they wouldn't even hire him.
We used to say that people who were special, their mouths are always, this guy.
Mouth breathers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a mouth breather. That's a good way of putting it. So this is why I'm doing the show today, is to talk about this kind of thing and why it is unfortunate as it is. Evan Mobley is a guy who I'm not going to tell you is doing wonderful, great things, but he's not a bust, folks.
No, absolutely not.
And he would have a perfect place on a team that had maybe a little more leadership from certain positions. He could
Correct.
really, I mean, and playing with Jared Allen has forced him into probably a situation where he wanted to retain some quickness. He did not build up his body because Jared Allen is the center and he has to play a 4 position, and he may well be playing out of position for what he is capable of doing best. But I want to remind people like this fucking mouth breather who writes this nonsense, there's a thing as being a bust, being overrated, being the most underwhelming player. And I'll start with Markelle Fultz. And anybody who knows the story of NBA picks, this is a story that gets to some of the heart of the difficulties of becoming a professional athlete at the elite level in the NBA.
I'll just interrupt you real quickly. Whenever you say this is the story, I automatically think of a lovely lady and a
No, what I think of no, I'm not even going to get it. This is the story of my life. Yeah. At any rate, that's for karaoke singers.
I'll carry it. I'll shut up now.
Thank you. He was the first overall pick, Markelle Fultz, by the 76ers in 2017. And this is a circumstance in which the 76ers were in that infancy stage of the process. Okay. Right.
Look at the film.
You know, they had all the lofty expectations of returning to the playoffs for the first time since 2012. And who are they counting on? Markelle Fultz, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons.
Oh.
No, okay.
Ouch.
But
yeah.
The interesting thing about, and I'll just deal with Markelle Fultz. He played in his college freshman year. He thought he was joining up with other players who had they were going to return to his college team. And it was like, was it Texas or Texas Christian? It was one of the
I don't really
colleges. And the 2 guys who he was supposed to be playing with, they got drafted in the NBA the year before, and they both became really good players. So that puts the lofty expectation that the incoming freshman, Markelle Fultz, was going to continue to carry the torch at Texas. Well, it didn't work out that way. They had a lousy team. They were 9-22, and he had a really good year, a very talented athlete, and he went high in the draft. And 76ers said, look at what we got. We got Ben Simmons, who's a great defensive player. We've got Joel Embiid, who's going to be the next thing. But we need a ball handler. We need a scorer, and that from the backcourt, and that would be Markelle Fultz. It didn't. Not only did it not pan out, but Markelle Fultz became the question mark of NBA history. Was he injured, or was he blown away mentally? And he had something that the 76ers at the time called scapular muscle imbalance, to try to explain why he couldn't shoot the ball anymore.
Wow.
He was shooting 33% from the floor. That includes the 2 points shots.
Wow. Isaac Okoro can top that pretty easily. Yeah. That's
after diagnosing him with this scapular muscle imbalance, they decided to sit him indefinitely until he recovered. But the bottom line was, if you remember Markelle Fultz, you'll remember that people questioned whether it was really his shoulder or whether it was up here.
You didn't
But
do the noise when you pointed
yeah,
at your
no,
head.
right.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. But he ended up not going anywhere, not doing anything, and he was like a top pick in the draft. He was like, the expectations were just way high for a guy who's a freshman coming out of college. The other guy who was going to be standing beside him, Ben Simmons, I mean, he was can't miss. He had every earmark of being a guy who he could handle the ball.
He was going to be all NBA, at some point. Yeah.
He could assist, he could defend, but he had a really good 2020-2021 season. He had scored a career high that year of 42 points in a game. He finished the season 14.3 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 6.9 assists per game. But he struggled at the free throw line and became the worst free throw shooter in postseason history. 34.2%, surpassing Wilt Chamberlain and Shaq.
Wow. And that's mental too. Totally.
But by the time he was done, after what they called heavy scrutiny, the guy couldn't shoot and wouldn't shoot anymore. He would literally pass up shots. In one game, he passed up a slam dunk to pass the ball to somebody else.
Wow.
Now, his career came to a screeching halt. He played in a number of different uniforms and never regained the confidence to be able to be willing to shoot the ball. He never shot from 3-point range really ever again.
Wow.
And, he became more of a down low player and a guy who could maybe give you some defensive minutes. And this is all the work of expectation, the big NBA draft scenario.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
There are good years, where the yield is really good for drafts, and then there's the they're bad years. And
so like Ben Simmons morphed into Ben Wallace, basically.
Yeah.
Trying to tell me.
There are a lot of players in the history of the NBA draft who had great expectations thrown upon them and they never lived up to them. And then there are other players who get this mantle put upon them, like Evan Mobley was by Cavalier fans. And I don't know what 1 year at USC buys you. To be very honest with you, I don't understand what he did in college that would make people say, this guy is going to be a 30-point scorer. He's going to be a double-digit rebounder. He's going to be a great defensive player. He's the whole package. He can handle the ball. I mean, did people actually watch him play? Because I've watched him play ever since he got into Cleveland, and I never felt that way about Evan Mobley.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'd say there is room for improvement with Evan Mobley, but what he does really could fit in to a championship kind of team. But for some reason, these expectations took over. The way the player was utilized, it was almost like Kenny Atkinson felt pressured into making him into a 3-point shooter and confused the guy by, no, you're going to be out front now. You're going to be handling the ball, bringing the ball up the court. You're going to be, we're going to really put you in the middle of all this, and we're going to use you in all the ways that we said we were going to use you. And you're going to let you blossom as a great all-time player. Wow. And you throw all of this onto this guy's shoulders, and that's not who he is.
He's still a very young man.
But he's not going to be different than what he is. You see, the thing that bothers me about this is it's not good enough for the media. It's not good enough for the gambling fans. It's not good enough. But if you had a team with Donovan Mitchell and with, with, James Harden and with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and you say to yourself, you're going to be in the playoffs here. How do you make Evan Mobley the most effective player that you could make him? And what do you expect from him? And the answer is not handling the ball out front, because he dribbles the ball the height of my head. I mean, it's just not a practical thing. He gets the ball swiped more times than anything else.
Oh, and when he gets double teamed and turns to, we've talked about this. He
Yes.
gets stolen from. So many times have we mentioned that.
Right. And, and Ron is pointing out that Zion Williamson is a bust and overrated. And I would not say that Zion is a bust. I would say
he got hurt a lot. I mean, he played really well against the Cavs the other night. I don't know if people saw that.
I talked about Zion when he was in his year at Duke, and it was like, this guy was way too heavy with skinny, and I hate to say pelican legs, because that's where he ended up.
Wow. Flamingo legs.
Yeah. But he was an injury waiting to happen. And it was a gift that kept giving, unfortunately. Yeah. You can't question Zion's ability to go to the basket, his strength, and his finishing abilities. You can't question that. He just couldn't stay on the floor. He just wasn't healthy. But that's exactly right, Jeffrey. He's not a bust. He's a guy who's going to put his years in the NBA. He's going to miss way too many games, unfortunately. But he has all the ability that they said he had. But sometimes when a team like the Pelicans, who just aren't going anywhere, they wanted him to be the everything player. And, when he was at Duke, they limited his minutes, and, he didn't have to play every minute of the game, because Duke had so many recruited players that he was just, the one that got the most attention. Yeah. Well, in the end, the Pelicans didn't have anybody. They brought him in. They're going to showcase him. They played him all these minutes. They said, what you're going to do is you're going to prove you can shoot from three. You can drive to the basket. You can do this. You can do that, with the Pelican legs. And he got injured immediately, and his career was like off on a bender. I mean, and I don't blame him. And for an idiot in the media to say, well, he's overrated and a bust. I mean, that's foolishness. There are players, I just mentioned Markelle Fultz, who never accomplished anything. Ben Simmons, who disappeared. Zion's not one of them. And God damn it, neither is Evan Mobley. So shut the fuck up. There's no accuracy to what's being said here. I will tell you this. The more you give him the expectations that he is a unicorn, the more you're going
to play.
You're going to send him down the wrong road.
Yeah.
And you bet he has the yips on the free throw line.
Yeah.
There is no question. He is, you're supposed to bend your knees, and you're supposed to, there is a rotation on the ball, and you have to have air under the ball, and you aim just inside the front rim so that you get the roll with that nice backward, rotation. He's stepping up to the line. He's bending his knees, and then he's standing and locking his knees and throwing flat shots that are banging off the back brace and the front rim.
Yeah.
And he needs more air under the shot. And it's gotten into his head, and nobody is working with him, or maybe he won't accept it. I can't tell you what the situation is, but a golfer with the yips has to do something, because it happens with the putter and some great golfers in history. It's no different than the second baseman like Steve Sachs or those guys who
Chuck Knobloch's
Chuck
favorite.
Knobloch that had that crazy disorder where they
Yeah.
couldn't throw the ball from second base to first base, in essence, without bouncing it. It becomes mental. So, Evan Mobley is still a young man, and it bothers the hell out of me when fans are just looking for somebody to blame.
Exactly.
There is no good reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, when we were growing up, there were martinet coaches out there that drove the fundamentals into players, and if you were 12 years old, you would have known how to shoot a free throw if you were coached properly. Nowadays, there's all of this dietitian data, there's all this mental health data, there's master degree clinicians out there and psychologists, and has it really improved any of the mental health of these players? I have no idea. I mean, we're still seeing the same things go on when the Bobby Knights and Woody Hayeses ruled the world, with players. So I don't know what the answer is.
Well, to me, I know what the answer is. You got to know how to use your players. And you go back to the San Antonio Spurs when it all started out. And, when Tim Duncan joined the team and David Robinson was also on the team, you had these two big guys. Well, David Robinson was kind of like the modern day Bill Russell. He was not going to be a guy who was going to knock down 30 points a night.
Absolutely not.
But he was just a defensive monster. When you get a guy like Tim Duncan out of Wake and he goes into the pros, it's like, you got to say to him, you got to have go-to moves. You got to work on your strength, your upper body strength, and you've got to have go-to moves. For him, he loved to use the backboard. I mean, Duncan had that little, mid-range kind of thing, right? I mean, and he was deadly. He was also a pretty good free throw shooter. And he didn't worry about being a three-point shooter. He'd leave that to the other guys. He didn't have to deal with that. And this is what the problem is. It was the choice of Kenny Atkinson to try to use him in a certain way. And he isn't that player. He's a darn good player. And he could be the David Robinson guy in a championship team. But you can't expect David Robinson to be Bill Russell, and you can't, to be Wilt Chamberlain and score points. You can't expect that. So now why are they expecting Evan Mobley to suddenly, it's like, he's going to become like, for sure, a 25-point, 27-point a night guy. He's going to get 13 rebounds, and he's going to get 7 assists. I mean, I don't know where this comes from. And how is he supposed to do that with ball-dominant players like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and now James Harden surrounding him? How is he supposed to do it? How is he going to get his hands on the ball with DeAndre Hunter on the floor with him? How is he going to see the ball in the right positions? Wow. There is so much more to this than pointing your finger at that individual player. Here are the 2020 to 2024 NBA draft picks, folks. The person they say is the number one is Anthony Edwards for the Timberwolves.
Correct, yeah.
Can't play a lick of defense. Not a championship caliber player. He's tremendous offensively, has incredible range, and he's fun to watch. Number two, all-star playmaker LaMelo Ball. I wouldn't even want LaMelo Ball on my team because there are moments where, he can do his little one-legged shot from the perimeter, but when it comes down to the clutch, he throws the ball away and he makes terrible decisions on when to shoot the ball way too early in possessions. And it creates runs for the other team. Then you look at a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, and he was number 12 pick.
Yeah.
No pressure on his shoulders. Nobody expected him to be an elite player. Well, and I hope he's going to still be elite when he comes back.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
there's always somebody between that 10 to 20 range that, shocks the experts. Well, I've said this before about draft ratings. It seems like there's like one person out there for the NBA, one person for the NFL, and one person for the MLB that writes a description of somebody, and then everybody else copies it, and no one's actually looking at these players, with a fresh eye.
Yeah, it's then you've got Cade Cunningham, and what I'm going to tell you about Cade Cunningham is he's strong, man, and he can take that ball to the hole, but he's a lousy 3-point shooter, and he's done nothing to better that since 2021. Really, he's not a good 3-point shooter, and Paolo Banchero is the next one.
Yeah,
and he's bigger than Cade Cunningham. He's a brick house, man. And he can score the ball in the paint, but he's not a good 3-point shooter. So you take a look at, the fact that the Pistons are doing well, and boy, they're in a great position now, although Cade's hurt, they're in a great position, still winning, and they've got the division and the number 1 seed all locked up. But when we get into the playoffs, we'll see what happens and whether the contributing cast on the Pistons or the Orlando Magic really are going to live up to because people are going to, the defense is going to be allowed to be a lot more physical, and the Cade Cunninghams and Paolo Bancheros are going to discover that there's going to be more allowed, and they're not going to go to the free throw line 12 to 13 times in a game. That's what you're going to find out.
That reminds me. I actually watched quite a bit of this game, the Minnesota and Houston game, which was just unbelievable and smacked of like referee interference, because there was an amazing comeback by the Rockets to put it into overtime. And then there was an amazing comeback by the Timberwolves to come back from being down 13 in overtime to fucking win the game. And so basically anybody that betted on the under was fucked, basically. But anyway, that game was brutal. There was so much physicality and fouls and Sengun, and the game turned on a Julius Randle running through a Sengun screen that they somehow called was a flagrant 1 with like 2 minutes to go, with Minnesota up by about 10, and they ended up getting a 4-point play out of it because the referees basically ruled something that was been going on the whole game, a flagrant 1.
Yeah, I mean, I just, and now Victor Wembanyama is the generational talent.
He's the next guy, yeah.
Right.
I hope he don't get killed.
But they're talking about the players who were solid contributors from the 2020 to 2024 NBA draft. Tyrese Maxey, who's a great scorer, can't play like a defense. Evan Mobley, a premier defensive big is the way they describe him. Scotty Barnes, who's more of the offensive part of things.
Yeah, all right.
And Brandon Miller, who is kind of a volume kind of shooting guy in Charlotte, if he can get the ball from LaMelo.
Yeah.
So, enough of this he's a bust stuff, because he's a solid player. He may not be what you want him to be, but your wives you're not what they really think you should be. You're sitting there in front of your TV, yelling at a guy that's a bust, who's a multimillionaire, who's averaging 18, 19 points a game, 8 rebounds, and is a top flight alterer of shots. And you are sitting there in the TV watching, and you're nobody. You're fucking nobody. and no expectations on your sorry ass because you're just a big mouth fan who hasn't accomplished a fucking thing and you're trying to live vicariously through somebody else. Get a life. God.
Go fuck yourself.
No, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The next headline.
If you're segueing, I'll break in. I got a brief, very, very brief update from our discussion on Monday.
Yes.
It relates to Haslam Sports Group. Soon after our little show on Monday, and if you haven't seen it, decide whether you want to watch it or not. They, in an attempt to attract a National Women's Soccer League team to Columbus, the majority owners of the Columbus Crew and the Cleveland Browns, and also the Milwaukee Bucks, billionaires Jimmy and Dee Haslam, have turned to Columbus City Council and Franklin County with a $50 million request. Can you imagine? They're asking CBUS to donate $50 million to them so that they can land a women's soccer league team in Columbus.
Now,
where do you think that $50 million will go? Straight into Giannis Antetokounmpo's fucking pocket.
Well, all the billionaires are John's paying the whores. That's what it boils down to, whether you like it or not, but it is what it is. The Cavs defense isn't playoff ready with 9 games left of the season. So says the Cleveland.com headline. And you know something?
Cleveland.com ain't ready either.
When did Kenny Atkinson ever show that he has the capacity to build an absolute great defensive or even a really good defensive team? Everybody blew Darius Garland off because he couldn't play defense, and he couldn't. But they didn't ask him to. He was a shrimp. He didn't work on his body, but he could score the basketball. But the Cavaliers believe that if they fall behind by 20 points, they can still come back and win. But you can't do that on back-to-backs. You can't do that by the end of the season when your players are exhausted. Fuck that shit. You can't do it. Yeah. You got to play with intensity from the beginning of every game. And every game they come out on the floor and they're behind by 10, 14 points in the very first quarter of the game. And it isn't that, if Donovan Mitchell and James Harden were great leaders, it wouldn't be happening. But if Kenny Atkinson knew what in the fuck he was doing defensively, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's much more going on with this team. Of course, the defense isn't playoff ready because we don't play that kind of a physical game. That's not what we do. And that's what becomes more valued as you get into the playoffs. What we are becomes less valued.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that Wolves-Rockets game was brutal. They would actually rip our bodies apart if the Cavs had to play against either of those two teams the way they played the other night. They would absolutely be dead on the floor. So, I don't know. I wish Tony DeCalf was here. He could probably talk more about that game because it was absolutely a unbelievable exhibition of brutality.
But I just get upset when people just make these bold sweeping statements and it's just all bullshit. It's like, look at the team that you have. You want to know the truth? Here's the truth. You can't handle
you
the truth.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Right. The Cleveland Cavaliers first round playoff opponent, if it's the Atlanta Hawks, they're going to have big fucking trouble. If it's any team that's just going to play helter-skelter up and down the floor and pressure the ball handlers, you're not going to be able to do anything with Schroeder and Harden pounding the ball until there's only 13 seconds left on the play clock to get something going in a pick and roll. You're just you may be able to shoot the ball well. You'll have a few games where you're hot from 3-point land, but you're not going to consistently be able to beat a team who's beating you down the floor, getting more free throws than you are, and getting more shot attempts up in every game because they get more offensive rebounds than you do.
Yep.
That's the reality. That's the recipe that just kills us against teams that play up-tempo basketball.
Yep, and the Hawks have gotten better since they got rid of Trae Young.
Yeah, I mean, there's a way of playing unselfish fast ball, okay?
Yeah.
But when you're a half-court team and you've got to feather the nests of James Harden, who thinks maybe I can find my way to a championship here. Maybe, I'm 36 years old and, maybe by the grace of God, it will happen here. That's all he's chasing. That's it. And Donovan Mitchell still hasn't proven with all of his offensive skill set that he has the heart to throw himself into the ring defensively and play true NBA playoff basketball. And that's what's going to hurt the team in the postseason. They're not going to get a single goddamn call. And the teams that are running up and down the floor are going to cause chaos. It's going to be a problem for them. And the problem is because of Kenny Atkinson at the top. And Kenny Atkinson is going to get fired. You mark my words. He's going to get fired. Dan Gilbert is not a happy camper. If he presents you with all of these players and the front office is actually giving you some decent bench players.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we've said this before. He doesn't know his best team, Kenny Atkinson. He's tinkering and tinkering and tinkering.
And if you want to go the polar opposite for the Evan Mobley complaints by the fans, how come people aren't talking about Merrill as opposed to Mobley? I mean, Merrill's a guy who comes from Utah State, who had a good year this year. Well, not him, but Utah State. And, and shooting 45% from 3-point land, Merrill. And now teams were rushing out at him. All right. They're just glued to him. And they're following him around wherever he goes. Now he's developed a go into the paint game.
To the hoop.
Yeah. He can't dunk a ball, but he's banking them in. He's getting into the paint and he's finishing.
Yep, he is definitely finishing. Yeah.
Why don't we hear about that? And, there's an example of a player who saw his own limitations and did something about it.
It worked about it. Yeah.
And that's what it takes to become better than what you are. You've got to have, there isn't just the 1A game. It's the A, B, and C game. You've got to develop a couple of different ways that you can beat people. Yeah. And, right now the players are confused. I mean, Jalen Tyson is probably sitting there wondering, did I fart in the room? What happened here? I know he's hurt now, but before that, Kenny Atkinson just limited his playing time. And why? Because he didn't like the defense he was playing. Well, whose defense do you like besides Mobley out there? Who?
Yeah, he was putting in the effort, Tyson, man. He was.
And blew his confidence.
Yeah.
So he starts missing every open 3-point shot that he gets. He's on the floor for inconsequential minutes now. And his confidence is low. And so is Evan Mobley's confidence low. And the dumbass fucking fans make it worse.
Correct.
There has to be, and Jeffrey Champion, Ellis, he was worthless in that trade. What multiple game 0 for 3 from 3-point line, had 4 points, unlike the last 4 games. Look, Keontae Ellis is a player who had some gaudy looking 3-point percentage numbers. But look at the way he shoots the ball. Okay. And again, I know I'm not a basketball player, but when I was young, I was a dead eye shooter because they taught the proper way you align the ball to the basket. If your hands, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's a process, goddammit.
but the release of the ball is such that you're getting a backspin on the ball.
Yeah.
But Keon Ellis is over here and it's side spin. Watch how the ball comes out of his hands. He can get hot as a pistol, but so could Karis LeVert. And they both had bad deliveries. They both have the wrong form. And I'm not saying that everybody shoots the ball the same way, but show me the Bradley Beals, the guys who consistently have a career, the McCollums, the guys who consistently have success shooting from the field. I'll show you two things. Guys who found secondary moves and guys who had really incredible good form. Take a look at Donovan Mitchell. In the last game, they threw a ball to him for some godforsaken reason with like 0.7 seconds of the clock. And in one motion, he threw in a three. And it was nothing but net. And most people would say, well, it was fucking luck. No, it was not luck. He lines up his body as well as any player. And, you know, every shooter is going to have ups and downs. But by and large, you don't see him missing wide left, wide right. You're seeing balls that are bouncing off the front rim or off the back brace. But the ball is really heading right toward the cylinder. A guy like Keon Ellis, you're seeing him hit the front of the rim. Compare his shot to Merrill's shot and watch how Merrill quickly gets into his motion. If you want to see a better example, Jalen Tyson. Jalen Tyson had no three-point shot in his rookie year, and he worked on what? Holding the ball up high, because before he was bringing the ball up, and in the motion, the game is so fast today. You bring that ball up from your upper, chest up. That the guy closes.
Yeah, that's 0.3 of a second that you're doing that, and that's too much time.
And to be honest, what he did was catch high, and look at his release now, and the ball just spinning off his hand the way it's supposed to. And now recently, because they've blown his confidence, he's not getting minutes and the shot looks more corrupted. But it is a mechanical process. Keon Ellis is a wonderful energy player, but he needs to work on the form of his three-point shot because he's not physically large enough to sustain bruising basketball, but he's a great piece to have on the floor as an energy player. And he needs to be a 3-and-D guy. That's what his role has to be. So that's that. Now, I want to point out something else because I want to share something video-wise.
Sharing
is part of the way of the world. This is, again, when I was talking about the Guardians the other day and the fact that the minority shareholder was going to be taking over in 2027, 2028, and that this is going to show a rise in the Guardians. Don't take my word for it. I gotta
not Winsy. Winsy.
Yeah. We gotta put this up. Where are you? Hello, Mr. Studio. Studio. Okay, here we go. This is Chase DeLauder in the first game of the season this year. Because I didn't realize this game was happening because my mind was focused on too many other things. So I didn't watch the game.
Oh, I heard the game from the 6th inning on WTAM. I didn't actually view the game. I heard it.
Now, all you have to do is take, and I'll blow this up a little bit. This is his 2 home runs, and you can see something in his compact swing that somebody like a Kyle Manzardo doesn't have.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. Now take a look at this. It's well worth watching.
Bang.
DeLauder, high fly ball, right field. It's deep. Rayleigh's back at the wall. He leaps. He can't get it. Chase DeLauder with a home run in his season debut. The family wasn't sure. They were waiting to see. Did the umpire raise that finger and circle it in the air? Yes, he did. 1-0 Cleveland. Chase DeLauder picking up right where he left off in Goodyear.
He's not done yet. Look at this.
Line drive to
Look
left
at that.
field by DeLauder. What a nice piece of hitting going the other way.
You're
Got that
damn
first
straight.
fastball and didn't try to do too much with
Went with the pitch. Look at the compact swing on this guy. And the ball is jumping off his bat like 108 miles an hour. And he's not swinging out of his shoes. We'll continue.
it. Takes it the other way. Good one.
So he's
Just-
2 for 4 in his debut.
Take what they give you.
And
Then
now
bam.
DeLauder,
You hang one.
goodbye. Deep right field. Into the night it goes. And it's 6-4 Guardians.
Now Dad's up.
It's a 2-homer night for Chase DeLauder.
Now look at the
See how
swing
ball
again.
just jumped off
There's
his
no
bat.
difference in the
that was
swing.
pretty.
I was going to ask you at some point, have you ever seen anybody that he reminds you of? That short stroke is so unique, and yet it generates so much power.
I mean, that
There you go.
Yeah.
Matt Underwood actually asked
had
me a
something to
coaching
say
question.
of substance. Yeah.
My God.
But, I'm just, it's impressive when you see something and you say, that guy, if he can, and the whole trick of hitting, is mental also.
Correct.
You gotta stay with things, and at times you lose it, and teams are going to find out what
Yeah,
he
they'll
can't
find
hit.
his hole somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it changes the picture of things when you have a guy who's hitting in the 2-hole that's like that. And if you
Before
have
Jose Ramirez,
behind him,
Kwan,
and
yeah.
if Kwan gets on base, just takes walks and hits his little Sally slap singles, and and you have DeLauder behind him, and then you have Ramirez, then you're one more power hitter away from being able to have mega run games. They scored
Correct.
6 in their opening game.
Well, the
and
thing is, man, they had Rocchio batting 9th, and he actually got on and got some hits. That I did hear, and that's how Ramirez was able to get the 2-run double that actually won the game. Was a game-winning hit. And then I think DeLauder had the home run afterwards. Yeah, I mean, you see that Rick May thing just posted.
yeah, let's put it up here. Tiger Woods arrested. Driving under
go.
the influence. Yeah, crashed into another car and rolled over his Land Rover. I mean, he's self-destructive.
Yeah, I mean,
He was believed to be impaired by medication. You see, this is a sad story, and it's like I was saying in the beginning of the program. You didn't need, and I appreciate it, Rick, but I didn't need to hear that because he is self-destructive.
Yeah,
And
he's
it's
got
a
enough
shame.
money to have his own drivers. God damn it! You shouldn't be driving a car if he's impaired.
He has a death
No one
wish.
should be.
He has a death wish. He's going to be a tragic death story. You mark my words. And it's the saddest thing because sometimes, you drive yourself, and he couldn't best Jack Nicklaus's record for majors because he injured himself in the quest of pressing himself too hard. And when his body fell apart, his mind fell apart. He has no life outside of what he is. And I'll tell you something else about Tiger Woods. He's a self-racial denier. He's a person who the term that he uses to describe himself is Caucasian, which is a combination of Caucasian and Asian, but there's no African American mentioned. And
Wow. Good
this
God.
is a person who related to his Asian mother and warred with his African American father. And I feel badly for him. But sometimes you can honestly be the unicorn. You can be the greatest ever and still end up like this.
Yeah, it's not enough, or there's something wrong, or I don't know.
It's really a very
sad.
sad thing, and it doesn't surprise me. But and now it's starting, and this is again how the press does this. The real Martian has landed. Chase DeLauder makes Guardians history in season opener.
One fucking game, my people.
I mean, it's funny when you look at the historical part of this, and it's like the people who hit home runs their first at bat. John Kenzie Noel was the most recent. He's bye, big Christmas.
There's like 7 guys, I think, in MLB history that have done 2 home runs in their first regular season game. And the only one I recognized was, I think, Bert Campaneris, and he wasn't a home run hitter. So, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So, at any rate, so now he's the Martian. Leave him alone.
Yeah,
let him find out.
Him. He's about the same age as Evan Mobley. In fact, I think they're like identically the same age. Somebody can double check that, but Lauder and Mobley are 24, 25 years old.
And there's so much more going on, and I'm just looking through this stuff. There's 2 more things I did want to say before I get off here. And I don't mean get off like not like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I chose not to say anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. The Florida Attorney General says the NFL must get rid of the Rooney Rule. Now, this is very interesting.
Oh, I hadn't heard this one.
His name is James Utmeyer, and he is, of course, from the great state of hateful Florida, where I live. And he is saying that the Rooney Rule is blatant race and sex discrimination, and that hiring decisions should be based on merit only. NFL fans in Florida don't care what color their coach's skin is, Utmeyer wrote. They care what colors their coach is wearing, and that those colors are winning on the football field. The Rooney Rule should be made illegal. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is you always have some lackey doing your business and your shit for you, okay?
Yeah.
And, of course, Politico, which is a political stupid-ass site, said that Utmeyer also sent letters to the owners of the NFL's 3 Florida-based teams. We know what the Rooney Rule is. We know who it's named after. But Art Rooney II, who is the chair of NFL's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, said this. This is just brilliant. There's no question that the environment has changed in recent years. We do have an obligation to make sure that our policies comply with the laws, whatever the law is. So if we're going to change the laws, and this is what I'm adding to this, if we can change the laws so that we can become even more of a boys' club for ourselves, and that the coaches can be a pure reflection of us, we'll do it. The Rooney Rule hasn't helped anybody because the people who own the football teams don't want to help anybody.
Correct.
This is it's a sadness. And, 10 head coaching jobs open this year, not a single minority, except for Saleh. That was it. And he's an Arabic guy. And he probably wouldn't have gotten the job now because we're bombing those people. So I don't know what leads us to this way of thinking. How do you prove merit if you don't get an opportunity?
Exactly. If you're denied the opportunity to perform, you'll never know how good you are.
And who would have said that Eric Spoelstra would be the longest tenured NBA coach right now. Who would say that? And he got a chance. He got a chance and he ran with it. That's tremendous. It's a wonderful thing. If it's a white person who does it, if it's an Arabic person, if it is a black person, it's a great thing to get an opportunity and run with it. But my complaint about the Rooney Rule is that the Rooney Rule allowed people like Romeo Crennel to keep getting head coaching positions when he wasn't a good head coach. Yeah. There was no merit. And so, of course, that's the way you're going to look at it if you hire incompetent people who are not up to the job. But why should every other minority take a back seat, Rosa Parks, take a back seat to that one person, to that one guy they keep giving opportunities to just to say, well, we did our part, we gave a minority an opportunity. You gave the same loser multiple opportunities and it didn't work.
Yeah.
I want new faces, period. I don't care what color they are, but I want new faces. I don't want 68-year-old men like myself being hired as head coaches. There's a future for the NFL, but it isn't hiring 72-year-old people. It isn't like giving Pete Carroll a goddamn head coaching job when he's like, crooked over and ready to keel over. And it has nothing to do with the Rooney Rule. It's the application of the Rooney Rule.
Yeah.
If the people who are behind the teams aren't willing to give fresh faces an opportunity, what did Kevin Stefanski do that Atlanta would rush in there when they didn't have a fucking quarterback? You tell me.
No idea.
I mean, if I were a young guy trying to get a start in the league, I'd be scratching my head saying, give me the chance that he had. And if I blow it up like he did, then you don't need to call on me again. I just want a chance. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And it's not just America, too. I'll very briefly mention this since this topic's come up. There's a football team in the second league here in England, Bristol City. They just hired a 78-year-old former England manager to be their next coach. Now, you can't tell me that there wasn't, and obviously he's Roy Hodgson. You can look him up. I mean, what is he doing being hired at 78? I mean, God.
I don't know.
That's what we're talking about. There's this whole log jam in the world of sports and corporations and just everyday life where these white boomers are hanging on to their positions and you can't displace them, and no one, regardless of what color, minority, religious faith they have, can get a look at. And that is what the problem. You look at the ownerships of corporations and sports teams. You look at the people. It's just, that's what it is. And look at the political leadership. Lindsey Graham, they're all, that's what's the problem, is that there's these people hanging on that were born before 1960 running everything, and they're not going away.
Well, I mean, they will eventually be underground, but I mean, the thing is, it certainly doesn't prepare, and no organization, stays with somebody forever and ever. And we've talked about Vince Lombardi over and over on the program, that he had his great years when you could quarterback sneak to win the Super Bowl in frosty, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
John Facenda.
But when it was over, when the league was changing, Vince Lombardi was worthless. He couldn't yell at the players. Yeah. He couldn't humiliate his players anymore. That wasn't going to work. You move forward. It's just...
You know what I saw the other day that depressed me? They put out this list of like 14 guys from Major League Baseball that haven't made it into the Hall of Fame that are, X number of years. And you know who's still on that list? Kurt fucking Flood is still on that list.
Yeah.
He's not in the Hall of Fame.
I don't
And
know.
that one man did more to change professional sports better
And was the fall guy for it.
and was the fall guy and the martyr for so many things.
Yeah.
And he is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's really all you need to know about what is wrong with American sports. Why is this? They made a big deal about honoring and retiring Jackie Robinson's 42 for every franchise. But meanwhile, Curt Flood still is not at Cooperstown.
And here's another one that I want to get to. 3 proposals for anti-tanking in the NBA, right?
I
And
would
the
say missile would work. Just
All right.
point anti-tank missile.
In the first proposal, the bottom 10 teams that miss the play-in tournament and the 8 that qualify for it all will be part of the draft lottery. The bottom 10 teams will have an equal 8% chance of moving up in the lottery, while the remaining 20% of the odds being split among the 8 play-in teams in descending order from 11th through the 18th. Take out your slide rules. All right. All 18 spots would be drawn as part of the lottery in that format. And the second proposal, the bottom 10 teams that miss the play-in tournament, the 8 that qualify for it, and 4 playoff teams that lose in the first round will all be included in the lottery and will be ranked according to their record across 2 seasons. The last part, weighting teams by their record across the prior 2 seasons, is currently how the WNBA does its lottery system. All right.
Wow.
I'm going over this quickly because it's mathematically, you really just have to sit here and probe your mind while reading this. The third proposal is what they call a 5x5 method. In this one, the same 18 teams from the first proposal, the bottom 10 that miss the play-in plus the 8 that make it, would be entered into the lottery. The teams with the 5 worst records would then all have the same odds, with them descending from there, and there would be a lottery drawing for each of the top 5 picks in the draft. Now, what I'm going to say is this. After all of this confusing, bewildering nonsense, can't we get a system where we have honest officiating, where every team is officiated with equality?
Correct.
Before we worry about tanking and before we worry about the lottery system, which, look, the 76ers were already said at the beginning of the program.
Yeah.
They had Ben Simmons, they had Joel Hans Embiid, and then they got Markelle Fultz. They had all the, that was the process. They fucked it up. But you see, in the end, the NBA chews up and spits out the markets that they don't want.
Yep.
And
go ahead.
if you're in any one of the mid markets like Cleveland, you will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There is no fair officiating. What is traveling for one team is not traveling for another team. What is an offensive foul against one player on a team that's a lesser team is an offensive foul, but not for a team in the top 4.
Yeah, and the all NBA guys get treated better than the Jason Tysons of the world too.
Yep.
You know the Moose way of solving this draft problem. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. The Moose system would be make the draft completely random. Put every single team in the bucket, and then maybe you'll pull out the Golden State Warriors first, or maybe you'll pull out the Cavaliers, or maybe
make it
completely random
52 pickup, and
that's how the FA Cup works. That's how things work here in different countries. Make shit random, then there's no argument about it, and then there's no tanking because there's no advantage to tanking when you have a random draft.
The Ohio State Lottery, we have new plans for the Ohio State Lottery, and everybody who buys a ticket, you have to say exactly what wealth bracket you're in.
Correct.
And because we want an equal distribution of wealthy people winning and not just
Exactly.
people who are desperately poor.
Yeah.
And, how much control does the NBA want, for God's sakes? And it started out by cleaning up your game. And I know they're not going to do it, but it's something.
There's leagues around the world that exist that do not have fucking drafts like American. And I think maybe we should do a show about Commissioner Landis and the antitrust laws and all that really started with baseball. How America's sports got fucked from the very beginning over 100 years ago. That would get like 0 viewers. But it's
Oh, of
something that I
course.
think a lot of people don't fucking know.
Well, I'm not being as somber as I was the last program
Yeah.
because
And I
there's
said I wasn't going to rant before the show today. I wasn't going to rant, but this got me going.
now get this. Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, great young talent. He's attempting to trademark the moniker Iceman, and he's getting flack from George Gervin, the former San Antonio
God,
Spur
yeah.
basketball player who was the Iceman. And when he learned that Caleb Williams was trying to get basically a trademark on that so we can make more money off it, George Gervin says, now, wait a minute. And now he is getting into the fray.
Trademark, yeah.
Why didn't Gervin do that before? I mean, it's like you're almost dead, George. You're almost literally the Iceman. I mean, you had all these years to trademark that motherfucker, and you didn't do it because you didn't have people behind you who were going to help you out with that. And when one guy steps up and says, that's what I'm going to call myself, that's going to be my moniker, and I'm going to trademark the goddamn thing. It's like
Gervin is 73 fucking years old.
Yeah, he had plenty of opportunities,
He's older than only just older than Jimmy Haslam.
And now the final story before I get out of here has to be the classic example of a head coach taking responsibility, right?
No, they still do that
for his team's loss. And I think that this is interesting. Nebraska coach Fred Hoiberg said a late game blunder that left his team with only 4 players on the court before a critical 3-point play in the final minute of Iowa's 77-71 win over the Cornhuskers. With 58.8 seconds left to play in the game, if you didn't see the game, my God.
I did not see
Iowa's Cale Combs stood on the baseline to inbound the ball as his teammates pointed toward Alvaro Fulgaris, who's down on the other end of the floor, all by his lonesome self, saying, throw it to him! And they're up at the time, they were up 74-71. So if they had gotten the steal on the inbounds and put up a 3-point shot, it's an dead even game.
Right.
They just hurl the ball the length of the court. The guy's wide open, and the guy running after him fouls him, and the guy puts it in, and it's a 3-point play, and they lose 77-71. And Hoiberg says, yeah, I guess it's on me. I only had 4 men out there. Thank you, coach.
Wow. That's great.
It appeared that the Nebraska player was trying to check into the game before the shot, but he was too late. Too late. Oh, but my dog just snouted me.
Tried to make it. Something inside of him died. And oh God.
Yeah. It's really unbelievable. Well, everybody, I hope this show was everything that you'd hoped it would be. And I'm just being sarcastic. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic as hell. Because you know something? I don't care. I have no sponsors. I'm not trying to create hassle and problems for people. I'm not trying to scream from the rafters. I'm a Cleveland sports fan. And there are things that I'd like to see the teams do better, but I'm not going to sit there and berate individual players. I'm not going to get into a conversation about Darius Garland. Darius Garland, I hope he does great in Los Angeles. He's playing in a wide open offense there. And, there isn't a sense of that half court kind of thing. They're letting him do his thing, and he's playing extremely well. I hope the young man stays healthy. I really do wish that he would work out harder in the offseason to prolong his career, but that's his choice. I don't expect him to go Tiger Woods, for God's sakes, and go out and start doing Navy SEAL training in fucking army boots. I'm not saying that, but you do better and you try to prolong your career. But I'm saying it's a great.
The pair of us are both 40 years older than all of these young athletes that we're commenting about, and we should put our arm around their shoulder in a literal sense, and not. I mean, these are just young children that are, could be our grandsons and granddaughters. These athletes.
And as far as the game tonight, the Cavaliers still at home. They have a chance to try to redeem themselves.
Miami Heat. Wow.
And the Miami Heat are going to go run, helter skelter again. And, Kenny's talked to his players for the, 45th time this year about it. And we will see if it actually sinks in.
His hair's not quite so spiky. It's still greasy, but it's like he's slicked it back in the Gordon Gekko sort of style now. It's no longer with all the little pointy, prickly, pointy bits, but it's more slicked back. He's looking more like Michael Douglas, 1989.
Yeah.
So anyway,
now the game is in Cleveland.
Watching the show, thank you.
Yes. and the game's in Cleveland. Is at 7:30. It'll be on local TV.
Local
NBA
service.
TV also will be showing the game, so you'll also be getting it on FanDuel. No reason not to watch it. The Guardians game begins at 9:40, so you can go right from the Cavaliers game, basically, to the Guardians game and see if they can come out and do some damage again. Bronk, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for all of your support. Until next time, which I guess is going to be Monday. No, wait. All right, I'll end the show this way.
Hey, CO Dad, go fuck yourself.
Hasta la vista, Pastorettes. Good night.